corrections of beta, and a little more. So far, we have calculated GDP, or national income, 163.33. We're aiming towards calculations of personal savings, SP, government savings, SG, and eventually savings of the foreigners, SR. And then the calculations of NX, net exports, which is related to SR, and the multiplier, or multipliers, as I'll show you. All right, so let's calculate disposable income. So the equation YD is equal to, what is it equal to? Y minus TY plus TR, which is autonomous. Okay, so let's see. Y is 163.33 minus what's the personal income tax rate? 30%, 0.3 times 163.33, and then we add to it the transfer payments of how much are transfer payments? 9. All right, so I'm going to pause and calculate. I'll be right back. Okay, so we have disposable income equaling to 123.33. All right. The next calculation, calculate total consumption. So total consumption is equal to autonomous consumption plus non-autonomous consumption, which we can state this way: MPC times YD. All right, now the numbers. Autonomous consumption is 10 plus MPC is 0.9. How do we know that? Because the marginal propensity to save is 0.1. So 0.9 times disposable income, right there, 123.33 gives us well, approximately, right? Gives us 121. Actually, it's 120.997. Let's say 121. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to calculate SP, private savings of the consumers using two different ways. All right. I just want you to remember something, however, if, here I forgot the consumption calculation from our previous calculation. That's 121. All right. What I want you to remember is that if let me take this off. If disposable income is equal to consumption, then the private savings are going to be equal to 0. If, however, disposable income is greater than consumption, then SP, private savings, is going to be positive, which means that as a group, the households, the consumers, are going to take these savings and they'll put them into this, what I'm calling the financial pool, which is made up of capital markets, which is made up of banking institutions and otherwise, starting with the most basic form of banking, which is depository banking. And the third possibility is consumption being greater than disposable income, in which case private savings are going to be negative, and that means that consumers are going to be withdrawing money from the financial pool. In other words, they will be borrowing money. Okay, so let's get to the calculation. All right, and let's start with this equation here. Disposable income can be consumed and or saved. So it stands to reason then that SP is equal to disposable income minus total consumption. All right, so here we are, these two numbers. Disposable income is 123.33. Consumption is 121, which means that private savings are 2.33. All right. So, where does this money go? Well, this money goes into this financial pool, and who can withdraw this money? Who can utilize this money? Well, the other actors of the economy, the government, the companies, and foreigners, if needs arise. Okay. All right. Let's continue with the second method of calculating SP. All right. So let me insert here consumption 121, and let's do the second way of calculating SP. Okay. The other method is the following. SP is equal to the marginal propensity to save out of disposable income, and from this we have to subtract autonomous consumption. Right? Our answer should be the same, 2.33. Let's see. What's MPS? 0.1. There it is. What's disposable income? We've calculated that already. It's 123.33. And from this we subtract autonomous consumption, which is 10. And that indeed does give us 2.33. So here you have the second method of calculating SP. Just remember that you have to make this this modification. Right? You have to subtract autonomous consumption. All right. Okay. Okay. So let me put this consumption stuff in there. 121. All right. So what are we looking at here? Calculate SG, which means in essence we're trying to figure out government finances. Is it a balanced budget? Is it a budget deficit or is it a budget surplus? So what's the equation for SG? S for savings and G for government. So SG is T times Y, personal income tax rate times the national income level, minus the government outlays, autonomous G plus autonomous transfer payments. So we've got a tax rate of 30%, 0.3, national income level of 133.33, minus government outlays. Government spending is 40. Transfer payments are 9. And the answer is, well, the answer is very close to a balanced budget. But let's see what the precise answer is. Negative 0.001. So it's very close, once again, to a balanced budget. All right, we might be looking at a religious miracle here. So, all right, let's leave it at that. Okay. All right, I'll keep silent here. So, the next calculation is NX, net exports. So our equation for net exports is autonomous exports minus imports. Again, NX is equal to X minus M, right? So X in this model is autonomous, and imports are marginal propensity to import out of national income. All right? So let's see. Autonomous exports are 5. NPI is given to us 0.2 or 20% times national income 163.33. And okay, so net exports are negative 27.67. Another approximation. All right. So what we have here is a trade deficit, meaning our imports are greater than our exports. Balance of payments. Okay, so let me give you the equation for the balance of payments. Balance of payments are equal to the current account plus the capital account. All right. So first, let me define the balance of payments. The balance of payments are a country's record of international transactions. The balance of payments are a country's record of international transactions. And there are two types of international transactions. The first type belongs in the current account, and the second type of international transactions belongs in the capital account. So what kind of transactions belong in a current account? These are primarily exports and imports of goods and services. Current account is primarily exports and imports of goods and services. And what is the capital account? Well, the capital account is primarily made up of financial assets, such as shares and bonds and other types of financial instruments. Okay? So the balance of payments is a country's record of international transactions, and it's made up of two accounts: current account, the capital account. The current account is primarily exports and imports of goods and services, and the capital account is involves international transactions dealing with financial assets, shares, bonds, derivatives, you name it. Okay? Now, I come back here, zero runoff. All right? So, zero runoff is an assumption, which means that the balance of payments must equal to zero. Zero runoff means that the balance of payments is equal to zero. Because if the balance of payments is not equal to zero, then two things will occur. One, the exchange rate will change, and two, the interest rate will change. Now, up to now, we have not considered interest rates. Not yet. That's going to be our next step, but not yet. And also, there are no exchange rates here. So this is sort of a shortcut where I get to say zero runoff, which means that the balance of payments is equal to zero. Okay? All right. Now, let's try something else. Let's assume that this country's current account is the following: imports greater than exports by $100 billion. All right? So that means that we're dealing here with a trade deficit. So the balance of payments, more specifically the current account, would show negative $100 billion. And the balance of payments would no longer be zero. It would also be negative $100 billion. So, you see, given this assumption of zero runoff, that means that our trading partners, see, we have a trade deficit. Our trading partners have a trade surplus. So zero runoff assumes that our trading partners who are in possession of our money, all right, they would bring back the money and they would put it into our capital markets, our financial markets, our financial pool, which means that the balance of payments would go back to zero, because the capital account would see an injection of $100 billion. All right? So this is how the system, this is how this model is assumed to work. The balance of payments must equal to 0 at all times because of this zero runoff assumption. And we need the zero runoff assumption because we don't have interest rates, not just yet, and we don't have the exchange rates. All right? Now, next slide. So here, what we're asked to do is calculate SR. Okay? So what is SR? S for savings and R for the rest of the world. In other words, our trading partners, our major trading partners. Okay? So, let's see now. Balance of payments, which is a country's record of international transactions, is equal to the current account plus the capital account. All right? Current account, this one here, is primarily exports and imports of goods and services. And this one here, the capital account, is primarily the trade in financial assets. All right? And again, given zero runoff, the balance of payments must equal to 0. Now, from our previous calculations, our net exports are equal to negative 27.67, which means that our imports, are greater than our exports by $27.67 billion. So our current account would show negative 27.67, and our balance of payments would no longer be 0. Our balance of payments would be equal to negative 27.67. Okay, so what is our assumption here? Our assumption is, this zero runoff assumption is that our trading partners who have a trade surplus with us, that they're going to take this money in their possession, our money, our denomination of $27.67 billion, and that they will bring it into our country, into our financial pool, into our capital financial markets. So this would be a positive $27.67 billion. So the balance of payments would go back to equaling 0, and the capital account and the current account would balance out. All right. So the question is, what is SR? Well, SR is $27.67 billion, and it's positive. So this is a capital inflow. All right. So I guess there's a shortcut here. If our country is experiencing a trade deficit like here, then we would have capital inflows. And if our country experiences a trade surplus, then money would flow out. We would have capital outflows. Okay, so let's see how we would verify these three calculations. So we have SP, private savings, and this relates to consumers. We have SG, and that relates to the government. Here we have SR, and this relates to foreigners. All right. What we also have to consider is investments. All right, because that's about firms. So the model assumption is that firms need $30 billion in order to finance their physical investments. So the assumption is, regarding investment, the assumption is that our firms will be borrowing this money. They'll be borrowing it from our financial pool. All right. So let me first graphically, let's do it this way. All right. So here's our domestic financial pool. And the question is, again, what is the financial pool? It's capital markets, it's banking institutions. All right. So let's see. Consumers here have positive savings. So this $2.33 billion, that is going to go inside this financial pool. All right. So that's an injection. So that's going to be plus 2.33. All right. Foreigners. Will foreigners be injecting money, or will they be withdrawing money? Well, again, our country is experiencing a trade deficit, which means that our trading partners who have a surplus with us, they'll take this surplus money and they'll bring it into our financial pool. So this is actually a capital inflow. So this $27.67 billion is going to be an injection. So that's a plus $27.67 billion. All right. Now, the government is a government. Our government here has a budget deficit. It's not large, but it is still a deficit of $0.001 billion. So is this going to be an injection or a withdrawal? That's going to be a withdrawal of money. So this is going to be a negative 0.001. Okay. Now, the firms. Well, the firms, as I pointed out, they need $30 billion to finance their physical investments. So what I'm basically saying is that these $30 billion, they're going to be a withdrawal by the firms. So that's going to be negative $30 billion. All right. Here we can put 3 zeros with all of these, right? Okay. So, what is the total in our financial pool? It's 0. All right. This is called a verification, and it just proves that that all the numbers are correct. But let me show you a better way to do this. All right, and that's by this equation here. I'm going to use a different color here, and here's the equation. Here's the equation in blue. SP, which could be a positive or a negative number, plus SG, which could be a positive or a negative number. In our case, it's a negative number, plus SR, which again could be a negative or a positive number. SR being the savings of the foreigners, must be equal to must be equal to physical investments. Now, SP plus SG plus SR is ST. What's ST? Total savings, which includes the savings of the consumers, what we call private savings, plus SG, the savings of the government, plus the savings of the foreigners. These three together are referred to as total savings. So total savings must equal to physical investments, which is exactly the case here. Okay? All right. We're getting to the end here, yeah? The last calculation was this one here. I didn't state it that way, calculate the G multiplier, but that was the implication. Once again, I got to add consumption here, 121, okay? All right, now, let's see. How do we calculate it? Well, we take the model equation, right? And you remember the model equation, right? Y is equal to autonomous C plus autonomous I plus autonomous G plus autonomous X, and you remember the last one, MPC times TR, right? And here we had what? 1 minus MPC, which is also equal to MPS, plus MPCT, plus the marginal propensity to import. Okay. All right. Let me switch to red here. Okay. So you remember our calculation here showed that the denominator is 0.57. Okay. So how do we calculate the multiplier? Well, specifically the G multiplier. Well, what's the implied coefficient of G? It's 1. And in the denominator, this number 0.57, this represents the runoffs. NPS, which is saved, T, which is taxed, and NPI, the percentage, which is spent on imported things. All right. So the G multiplier is equal to 1 divided by 0.57. You can think of 1 as that hypothetical $1. In other words, when the government increases spending by this hypothetical $1, GDP goes up immediately, but this $1 this demand created by this dollar, it will just be multiplied over and over and over again in the economy, and every level of spending will have its runoffs. Again, savings, taxing, and spending on imports. So ultimately, the calculation shows that the multiplier is equal to, what is it equal to? Let me pause and do the calculation here. It's equal to 1.75. All right, 1.75. So what does that mean, basically? It means that for every dollar which the government spends, GDP will increase by $1.75. If the government spends an extra $100 billion, then the GDP would go up by $175 billion, etc., etc., etc. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to compare the G multiplier with the TR multiplier. Okay, now let's calculate the TR multiplier, and again we would have to use the model equation: autonomous C plus autonomous G plus autonomous I plus autonomous X plus MPC TR. TR is autonomous, and in the denominator we have 0.57. So we're trying to calculate the TR multiplier. All right. So what is the coefficient of TR? It's not implied. It's 0.9. So where is MPC? Well, here it is. This is MPS. So if NPS is 0.1, then NPC is 0.9, divided by the denominator, 0.57. So what will the TR multiplier be? 0.9 divided by 0.57. It would be 1.58. All right. We might be done for the day here. Yeah. Okay. Maybe one more thing here. So you remember the G multiplier. Let's do a comparison, okay? So the TR multiplier, which is calculated, is 1.58, and the G multiplier, which we calculated in the previous slide, is 1.75. All right. Now the question is always asked: if an economy is undergoing a recession, what kind of a fiscal policy should be practiced? In other words, should fiscal policy be an increase in government spending, or should fiscal policy entail an increase in transfer payments? Well, there are two lines of reasoning here. Using government spending it's just more efficient, because for every dollar which the government uses to boost the economy, GDP will go up by $1.75. Whereas for every dollar spent on transfer payments, the GDP level goes up by $1.58. So one of the arguments is government spending is more efficient. You get more traction out of a dollar. However, if your economy is undergoing a recession, it might be better to it might be more humane to inject demand through increasing transfer payments, because that might be less efficient, but more humane in that it'll reach the unemployed, it'll reach the poor, it'll reach the disabled. So these are the two lines of reasoning. All right, I think okay. Last words. Go to become for your gamma. There's alpha, there's beta, and there's gamma. Your third assignment. I hope everything is going well. Ciao, ciao.